Hello and welcome. In this lecture video, I'll be discussing the concepts of present value and future value, time value of money, and also discuss the ideas of simple interest and compound interest. So the whole idea of present value and future value refers really to the concept of the time value of money. So we have to talk about the time value of money before we can really discuss present value and future value. And so what the time value of money is really saying is that $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. And you want to think about why that is. Well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, there's inflation. It used to be that a cup of coffee cost 25 cents. Now costs $3. And so why is that? Well, some of it is the way that we market coffee. It's not just a staple anymore. But also some of it is inflation. Inflation is just a rise in general prices. That's the way I think about it. That's what inflation is. And so inflation is one reason why the value of $1 erodes over time. Okay? The other way that you can think about time value of money is, what if you had a friend who borrowed $100 from you? And this friend said, you know what, I can pay you back tomorrow, or I can pay you back in 6 months. Which one are you going to say? You're going to say, pay me back tomorrow. Of course. I mean, that's a no-duh. Why is that? Well, again, we could talk about inflation, although I doubt inflation would be that bad over a 6-month period. What's another reason? Well, the longer they take to pay you back, the higher the risk that they may not pay you back. If you wait 6 months to receive your $100 back, then over 6 months that person may lose their source of income. Your friend may lose their source of income, and they say, maybe I can't pay you. So there's risk involved in waiting. And so that's another reason why you'd rather have $1 today than $1 tomorrow. You'd rather get paid tomorrow than in 6 months from now. So you'd rather have the dollar sooner than later. So risk is another reason. Inflation is a reason. There's also one more reason that's important to think about, and that's the concept of opportunity cost. So opportunity cost is the idea that if you choose one alternative over another, you will forego the benefits of the alternative that you didn't choose. So for example, rather than listening to this lecture video, you could be watching Netflix. So you're suffering an opportunity cost by listening to me talking about opportunity costs, right? Let's think about that conversation or that scenario with your friend borrowing $100. So your friend borrows $100. They say, I can pay you back in 6 months, or I can pay you back tomorrow. Which one do you just choose? I would choose tomorrow. I would choose sooner rather than later. Inflation, risk, but also opportunity cost. Because if I wait 6 months, right? I can't do anything with that $100. But if I get it tomorrow, I can put it into the bank, I can put it in the stock market, and start earning a return with that money. But if I don't have it, I can't do that. So I suffer an opportunity cost by waiting. Okay? Those are the reasons. Those are 3 reasons why you'd rather have $1 sooner rather than later. Now the real question comes in, though. What if your friend said, all right, you lent me $100. I can pay you back $99 tomorrow. Or I can pay you back $100 in 6 months. Now which one are you going to choose? Right? Now the situation's a little bit different, right? Because if you wait 6 months, you suffer that opportunity cost. Even though they're not paying you $100 back, they're paying you $99, you can still take that $99 and do something with it if you have it sooner rather than later. And you have less risk because you're not waiting as long. So that's really the situation that we're talking about over here. Okay? That's what we're going to, and I'll come back to that example about the $99 versus tomorrow versus the $100 in 6 months during this lecture video. Okay? Throughout this whole chapter. So we have some other terms that we need to talk about, the concept of a present value. And the definition of a present value is the value of a given dollar today. Okay, what is the value of a given dollar today? Or I can think about it as, okay, If I'm going to get $100 in 3 years from now, what is that worth today? Okay, what is that $100 worth today? All right. Future value is the value of the dollar in the future. So if I put $100 into the bank and I earn 10% per year, what is that $100 going to be worth at the end of 3 years? That's future value. Okay? Compound interest versus simple interest, and we'll do a problem in this lecture video to really solidify that understanding. Simple interest is just interest earned on principal. So if you put $100 into the bank, that $100, that's the principal. Okay? With simple interest, if it's 10%, what you would do is you would only earn 10% per year on that $100. Okay? Only on that $100. You only earn interest on the principal. And that's what it's saying right over here. With compound interest, though, we earn interest on top of a principal, but also the interest that is accrued so far. So what that means is at the end of year one, right, you've earned 10% out of that $100. Right? It's 10% per year, 3 years, $100 into the bank. Okay? With compound interest, at the end of the first year, you've earned 10% of that $100, $10. Then at the end of the second year, you're going to earn 10% interest on $110, which is the principal plus the first year interest. So with compound interest, you're earning interest not just on the principal, but also on the interest that is accrued. Okay? The concept of discounting is finding the present value from a future cash flow. That's the concept of discounting. Okay, so the concept of discounting is really saying, all right, I'm going to get $100 in 3 years from now. What is that worth? I'm going to then, to use this term in that context, I'm going to discount that $100 that I'm going to get in 3 years. I'm going to discount that to today's dollars, which would be the present value of that $100 that I received in 3 years. Now, in order to discount those future cash flows, I have to choose an interest rate. So my discount rate is the rate that I use to calculate my present value or to discount the future value to a present value. What discount rate do I choose? Well, I have a required rate of return. It's also known as the discount rate or the hurdle rate. Required rate of return. It's the minimum rate of return that you want to earn. Okay? It's that minimum rate of return. Sometimes what firms will do in order to determine their required rate of return is that they will calculate a weighted average cost of capital. And it's weighted between the cost of debt and the cost of equity. When I say the cost of debt, what I mean is the interest rate that you'd have to pay on your debt. Okay? And when I say the cost of equity, what I mean is the rate of return demanded by your shareholders. Okay? So, some firms will calculate that weighted average cost of capital and then use that as the required rate of return and then use that as the discount rate when they're calculating something that we'll talk about, present value, and then eventually net present value. Okay? So what I want to do now is I want to look at this example right here, and then I'll come back up to this formula. Let's take a look at the simple interest. So let's compare compound and simple interest, and then we're going to use that to help us derive this formula, which is our formula for calculating present value. Okay? So let's suppose we issued a $1,000, 10% 3-year note payable. First of all, what is the journal entry to record this? Well, what are we getting? We're getting cash, right? We issued a note payable, so we're issuing debt. So what do we get in return? It's kind of like you took out a student loan. What do you get now? You get cash now. Now, then what do you have? You have a liability. So we would debit cash for $1,000, and then we would credit our notes payable or $1,000. And of course, our accounting equation stays in balance in this situation. Cash is an asset. That goes up. Debit, credit, credit, debit. Okay, just remember that from Accounting 101. Notes payable is a liability. Liabilities are going up. That's why it's referenced with the credit. In terms of our simple interest calculation right over here, and I was saying this earlier, that simple interest is just interest on the principal. The principal is $1,000. So what I can do is I can take my 1,000, which is my principal, times my yearly interest rate, 0.1, 10%, times 3, because it's 3 years, gives me $300. That is my interest. My future value, which I'll abbreviate FV, my future value equals $1,300. Because remember what future value is. It's the value of a given dollar at some time in the future. The present value in this situation is the $1,000. The future value is how much we have to pay back at the end of 3 years, so $1,300. So that's simple interest, and that's not really what we're talking about very much in terms of present value and future value. What we're really dealing with is the idea of compound interest. All right, so to do compound interest, and remember compound interest, as I was saying earlier, is interest on top of not just the principal, but also interest. So I'm going to set up a table here. I have my year, then I have my interest, and then I have my FB for future value. So I can say year 1. All right. So at the end of year 1, what I do is I have my 1,000 times my 0.1, which gives me interest of $100. And then at the end of year 1, my future value is $1,100. In year 2, the way I calculate interest is not simply what we did up here, which is just 1,000 times 0.1, because simple interest is just interest on the principal only. With compound interest, we're going to calculate interest for year 2 by taking the principal plus the accrued interest. So this is the principal plus the accrued interest after 1 year, 1,100 times 0.1, which gives us 110. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm earning interest, not just on the principal, but also on the accrued interest so far. I'm getting 10% of that $100, which is our accrued interest after 1 year. So now what I can do is I can say my future value is going to be equal to my 1,100 plus my 110, 1,210. When I come over here at year 3, I could take my 1,210 times my 0.1, 121. I can add 121, which is my interest for year 3, to my 1,210, which was my prior year's future value, or the beginning future value up for year 3, end of year 2, same as beginning of year 3. And then what I have is I have my future value, 1,331. And you can see my future value here is higher with compound interest than my future value with simple interest. And the reason for that is because we're earning interest not just on the principal, but also on the accrued interest. And so my future value is 1,331. My total accrued interest, of course, is just equal to that $331. I add that to my principal to get to my total future value. Okay? In the next lecture video, I'm going to be looking at compound interest calculation semi-annual, and then also come up here and discuss this formula, and then looking at some present value and future value problems. Thanks.